and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, we have been going deep into talking about and simplifying leadership and culture strategy this season. And I really love this topic that we're going to simplify today because I feel like it fits right in there. Because let's face it, at work, there are high achievers, people that go the extra mile, whatever it takes. They're really driving performance and making things happen. And equally, they're burning out, some of them. So I want to simplify today how to help high achievers share the load so that everybody can be a part of the work that is getting done. And hey, crazy idea, be thriving at work at the same time. So my special guest today, her name is Meghan French Dunbar. She's a best-selling author of a book called This Isn't Working: How Working Women Can Overcome Stress, Guilt, and Overwhelm to Find True Success. She's a journalist, a speaker, and a workplace strategist, working with companies like Coach, Kate Spade, John Deere, and Eileen Fisher. She helps leaders create cultures where people and businesses can thrive together. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Meghan French Dunbar. Hey, Meghan.
Hi, I am beyond delighted to be here and so happy to close the week out with you.
Oh my goodness. It's so great to be able to sit down and talk about these things because I feel like we don't talk about it. Like the fact that people are carrying so much on their shoulders right now. Can we just pause and reflect on that first?
Yeah. I did a book talk 2 weeks ago and I asked the audience, I said, what is the most common response right now when you ask someone how they're doing? Mm-hmm. And everyone started yelling out, busy, tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, fine, I'm okay. And that's the norm. That's what we're conditioned to accept.
Yeah. And I mean, not to talk politics and all the things, but it does kind of feel like the world is a bit of a hot mess right now. And when the outside world feels like a hot mess, I'm always curious about people's inside world, like inside them, but then also inside their work as well, because it's just a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're supposed to carry on as though everything is normal and do so in environments that don't necessarily optimize for human flourishing, while also contending with realities outside of the workplace that, let's just say, there's some room for improvement.
Yeah. And if anybody's listening to the Simplifiers podcast, they're probably here to be like, girl, just can you simplify it down for us? Okay.
Give me the answer.
We are here and we see you and we hear you and we know. So let's start with the basics first off. Like when leaders say high performance, are they optimizing for productivity or human flourishing? As you just said, what's the difference and how can you tell by what gets measured and rewarded at work?
Yeah, this is, as all great stories do, mine often is rooted in my own individual trauma, let's say, and mine was all around high achievement. And being that high performer, I had co-founded and was CEO of my own company and just worked myself to the bone. And I was achieving a lot and I felt very, quote, successful. And I was contending with rampant mental health issues on the side. And I was noticing behind closed doors that this is something that most high achievers were dealing with when you're you get past the how are you doing? And it's, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so tired. Blah, blah, blah. And then you go one layer deeper and it's people dealing with depression, anxiety, people having physical health issues that are unidentifiable issues going on. And so we talk a lot about optimizing for productivity, and that is very much what it sounds like, which is, the quantity of the things that you are doing? Am I getting everything off the to-do list? Am I meeting my goals, my KPIs, my revenue targets, all the things that we set as our kind of professional goals and aspirations? And then we have all of the social expectations outside of the workplace of caretaking and all the things that we're doing. And so it's always just everything is about better time management, productivity hacks. How do you do more? Mm-hmm. And how do you manage to hold everything possible? And so the difference between optimizing for productivity and optimizing for flourishing, they are vastly different. And this was when I was writing the book. I was, of course, on my own journey. I had burnt out to the point where I had to resign from my own organization after 5 years of running it. I had taken time off, had kids, done all the things. And then I was looking at, is it possible to feel successful professionally and thrive? And so I interviewed every human being I could find who seemed like they had figured that out and tried to understand what they were doing differently, which a lot of it mapped onto Harvard's Human Flourishing program. And there are 5 core elements of human flourishing. They are number 1, purpose; number 2, mental and physical health; number 3, having satisfaction or feeling joy and happiness; number 4, being aligned with your values; and number 5, having deep, meaningful social connections. And when you think about those as compared to optimizing for productivity, there's very little overlap. And we are optimizing typically for the quantity of the things that we are doing rather than the quality of our life or the things that we are doing, the quality of time spent with people, the quality of our health and well-being, the quality of just feeling joyful, like just doing things for pure joy and satisfaction. And so, especially, there's our internal idea of what we're both setting our goals around and rewarding, which is often how much we're doing. But then there's also, like you mentioned, there's in the workplace, we set individual performance metrics around how people are performing, and it's almost always based around productivity and KPIs and targets and sales and revenue and all of these things. And so we're conditioned over and over again to optimize for that. And almost always it comes at the cost, or we compromise the things that actually help us flourish in the name of productivity. And then we wonder why we're struggling. And so that's the tension that I've both been living through, but also identifying as what other people are doing differently, where they're finding success and seem to be happy.
Yeah. And you know what I appreciated in your book is specifically you point out, like, it's not you, actually, it's the system at play. Because I think a lot of times for high achievers, and I'll consider myself a high achiever as well, like I output a lot. I carry a lot on these shoulders. I do a lot. And what I find is that sometimes we do blame ourselves first and go, well, gosh, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. And I thought I could do this, this, and this. And there's a lot of kind of self-shame and self-blame. But really, when you zoom out, there's something way bigger at play here that's systemic, right? Tell us more there.
Yeah, the systemic issues around burnout was one of the big aha moments that I had. And my experience of it when I was burning out, I knew I needed to resign. I had come off my first maternity leave and I had no gas left in the tank. I could barely get out of bed. And I had, tons of team members, and I felt this sense of responsibility where I was like, I'm not the leader that they need, and I can't do this to them anymore. And so that led me on my own journey of trying to understand this burnout issue. But in my brain, I was going to resign, take a month off, and then launch another company. And there was this all I need to do is go to the spa, take a week off, just stop working for a little bit, and then I'll return and everything will be fine. And this is what I find is, the burnout hacks, all the issues around just take a couple of days off, do better at time management. The onus is always put on the individual to address their own burnout when it's very much a systemic issue. When you look at the top causes of burnout, they are in fact feeling overwhelmed and overworked, no surprise there, unfairness, feeling a lack of reward or acknowledgement, lack of community, lack of autonomy, or being misaligned with your values. Mm-hmm. And when you're like, okay, so what are the things, how could I address any of those things individually? There's some things you can do. Lack of community, you can begin cultivating a greater sense of community, both at work and outside of the workplace. But most of the other ones are very much systemic. They are caused by the way that we design our workplaces. And I can go into those specifics if you want to, but I will not fire hose that information.
Well, here's the truth, you guys, because like when I was reading through her book, she gets in it real quick. And she also, I'm just going to say it, you say the quiet thing out loud. And I'd love to just take a moment to read from your book right now, if you will, if you allow me. Page 19, you say this, and you were specifically talking about things that are happening in the world with patriarchy, gender roles, and double standards. So page 19, you say this. In addition to being judged based on behavioral double standards, we're also often subjected to judgmental comments about not being at home. Quote, who's taking care of your kids right now? Quote, how do you juggle being a mom and working? Quote, is your husband babysitting your kids? No one asks working men about family life, but it's a common experience for working women. The subtle or not so subtle message is clear. You're supposed to be at home. And these judgments aren't just in our heads. Research has shown that when women achieve success at work, we're liked less and penalized for violating traditional gender roles. Ugh. I mean, did everybody just have a collective like, ugh, when that, as I did? It's a lot. And here we are in 2026, still grappling with this. And I feel like we really are at a breaking point as women in society, no matter where you live in the world, where there is this, it's just a friction of these traditional gender roles and beliefs, and where women are and are capable of and can do. How do we solve this?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have the, but it gets worse issue, which there's the gender roles and the expected way, behaviors around women outside of the workplace, as mentioned in the book there. But then there's also the dynamics inside the workplace, which most of us are working at, competitive, profit at all cost environments. And when you look at the timeline around when women entered the workplace, this was one of those things where I actually visibly did it on my computer and looked at the timeline. Business as an entity has been around like the last 3,000 to 5,000 years, and women have only been, quote, allowed into the workplace in the last 50. So we've very much been the minority population coming into a dominant culture, which means that we are doubted. There's like this assumed incompetence until proven otherwise. We're seen as having less leadership potential. We have the United Nations pointing out that 9 out of 10 humans still hold fundamental gender biases. So we're in these cutthroat environments where everything is based on performance, individual performance, but then we are doubted, dismissed, overlooked. And so we have to work 10 times harder to get as far as everyone, as far as the men. So there's that on top of the behavioral expectations and double standards outside of the workplace. And so there's always this it's almost a lose-lose of you either need to sacrifice yourself at work or sacrifice yourself to take care of everyone and everything at home. And if you're not doing one, you should be doing the other. And so it comes down to pervasive self-sacrifice. And in The Myth of Normal, which is Dr. Gabor Mate and Daniel Mate, they talk about that self-sacrifice is one of the 3 things that they found that predisposes people to disease more than any other behaviors that humans undertake. And women are just constantly self-sacrificing. We see it as either a luxury or something that's selfish that we can't do. And so we just put it on the back burner.
Yeah, terrible. Let's vow right now, Girl Scout honor, that we start today to change that. So what does that look like in day-to-day behavior for high achievers, the ones that are where success means sacrifice? And why is it hard to interrupt? Is it, again, back to the system, the ecosystem, the petri dish of where they work?
This is one of those, it's like a simple, complicated topic. What I found was a lot of it comes down to the way that you define success for yourself. And there's research around most of us are conditioned, as we're brought up, to identify success with extrinsic motivators. So title, salary, influence, power, all of these things that show other people our quote success. The intrinsic motivators, which are purpose, growth and continual learning, things, having autonomy and freedom, those things we often don't quite prioritize as much as the extrinsic motivators. And with extrinsic motivation, there's research that shows that when we anticipate a reward, aka extrinsic motivation, it triggers a surge of dopamine in the same region of the brain that's associated with drug addiction. So it's very much an addictive cycle. You set the goal, you hit it, you feel some success, and then you have to set the next thing. And you just do this. We just do this over and over again. So there's an addictive quality, but then also research has found there was a group that did students who based their idea of success on extrinsic motivation in college and intrinsic motivation. They followed these students later in their life, and regardless of the level of success that they hit, the extrinsically motivated group had lower levels of life satisfaction and increased levels of stress, depression, and anxiety. And the intrinsically motivated group had increased levels of life satisfaction and decreased levels of stress, depression, and anxiety. So most of us are chasing the wrong things. And so when we're talking about what are the changes that we can make, this is something that I learned at the feet of incredible people who are pioneering new ways of thinking about success, where I realized it's very much a mindset shift. Going back to what we initially talked about, they revolve their idea of success around optimizing their flourishing. Mm-hmm. They build their life or their work around their life rather than their life around their work. Their work is not the end-all be-all. They prioritize mental and physical health, finding joy, building deep connections, and having time with the people that they love. They prioritize those things just as much, if not more, than all of the professional accomplishments. And it's not to say that extrinsic motivation doesn't have a role or that it doesn't feel great to just crush something professionally. Like, I will not lie, going into the bookstore and seeing my book on the shelf for the first time and having my 6-year-old son scream at the top of his lungs, "Oh my God, it's mom's book," to everyone in the bookstore, like, highlight of my life. Absolutely. And there's a deeper meaning to it. And I've been really focused as it's coming out on, I limit my travel, like focusing on my autonomy, not just falling right back into the addictive rat race of the entire thing. And so it's very much a mindset shift around, am I doing things that make me happy and well instead of, am I doing the most?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. And you know what I hear in what you just said there is thinking about agency, self-agency. You do have the choice and the ability to influence, the boundaries that you set in the work and the volume of work that you produce as well. But the other thing that I think about is, I know we have a lot of HR professionals that listen to this podcast, and you guys, my goodness, you are in places of influence for, helping to pull strategic levers to ensure that your people are getting leadership development, listening to podcasts like this, and giving your people managers or people leaders the tools to have these kinds of conversations in their weekly team meetings. Like, it actually is possible to scale it across an enterprise, no matter if you're a company of 50 people or 50,000 people. It really requires the belief that this paradigm shift, A, is important, which, yes, I believe it is. And B, that you give the tools and the training to the people in the middle, the people managers that can make the greatest ripple. Because, you've heard the old adage, you leave terrible bosses, you don't leave terrible jobs, right? Mm-hmm. So let's empower these bosses with new tools in their tool belt to have these bigger conversations, to shift the paradigm, right?
Yeah, that when you look at, there's a statistic around 70% of people now say that their boss or manager has as much or more of an impact on their mental health than their spouse does. And that is such a tremendous responsibility. And when we are training managers to optimize for productivity and compliance, rather than helping people grow, ensuring that their team is supported and well, that makes an unbelievable difference in people's lives. And the workplaces that I've studied where people are actually thriving, the entire workforce seems to be thriving. It is because they train the managers on the things that matter most. And that actually ends up driving financial results much more than burning people out, overworking them, and driving efficiency and productivity. So I very much agree. It starts with leadership training and reimagining what the role is of a leader.
Yeah, work shouldn't suck this much, you guys. Like, let's just say the quiet thing out loud again. Like, if you are in a job right now that you are miserable, or you just are, it's a relentless onslaught of priorities and revenue targets, and there really is a better way to work. And you say in the book, like, burnout is a systemic problem, obviously, like, not an individual one. So what could org level, what kind of drivers could there be that like helps those high achievers, like, from over functioning? Because I think there are, certain people in senior leaderships and teams that I've worked with in the past where it's like profit at whatever cost. But that's it. That we can get more people. If you burn out, well, it's too bad. You just couldn't hack it, right?
Yeah.
What are some org level drivers that can help these high achievers from stopping the over functioning?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is one of my dorky favorite topics. But when you look at what decisions we are regularly making, how business as usual is driving this, we have typically rigid, hierarchical command and control, top-down management where only a select few people have access to organizational information. They make decisions for people. They dictate that down. And the success of the organization is most often shared only with the select few at the top. And then when you match these practices with the key drivers of burnout, when you say lack of autonomy, if you're telling people, making decisions for people and then telling them what to do, and they have no access to the information or understanding of why things are happening, they're going to feel a lack of autonomy. They're also going to feel like things are unfair. When you build isolated, siloed environments where people are pitted against each other based on individual performance, that erodes community. And when we only share financial success with a select few people at the top of the organization, that makes people feel a lack of acknowledgement. They are the people who are the reason the company is succeeding. Yeah. And then profit and all of the other things are typically only shared with the shareholders of the entity. And so all of these drive the issues that we're having. So when you're asking, what can we do at an org level? It is understand those issues and the systemic drivers, and then how do we reverse them? One of the best practices that I have seen, it takes a bit to understand how to get it going, and it addresses pretty much 3 pillars of burnout in one, is collaborative decision making. So I'll give 2 examples. Small business and large company both do collaborative decision making. One is Torani syrups. If you've ever had a flavored latte in your life, you've had Torani syrups, 100-year-old syrup manufacturer based in the Bay. And they're coming up on being $1 billion organization, and they do collaborative decision making. So this can be done at scale, and also homeroom restaurant. It was a macaroni and cheese restaurant based in Oakland. My friend Erin Wade ran it, and she quite literally every single week had an all-staff meeting that everyone was paid to be at. She had over 100 employees, and everyone was invited to the meeting, from dishwashers and line cooks to the CFO and COO. And they would discuss transparently the key decisions that were coming up with the organization and share financial information with everyone. This is how we make money. This is the decisions that we're thinking about making. What concerns do you have? What ideas do you have? What questions do you have? And no, it is not consensus-based decision making, but it is openly and transparently sharing information, aggregating the best wisdom in the room, taking people's ideas and concerns into account, and making the best, most informed decision possible. Torani does this as well. They gave an example. They had to move from South San Francisco across the bay to San Leandro, where they are now. They interviewed every single employee at the organization to understand their concerns, how it would work best for them, and how to optimize the new production facility that they were building to make sure that they didn't lose one employee moving across the bay. And so Tarani does this on a regular basis, collaborative, open book, transparent decision making. So that's at the organizational level, big thing that is a complete shift in how we think about things, but it gives people autonomy. It shows people respect. It builds community because all of a sudden you're building consensus, collective wisdom in a community of peers. That is a beautiful way to actually deepen relationships with people. And it makes things feel fair. People feel a sense of dignity, like they're valued rather than just being told what to do. So that's a huge lever. It's not necessarily like on the day-to-day things, but it's one of the practices that I see that I'm just like, the organizations that are doing it well, 9 times out of 10, they have some form of transparent open book management and collaborative decision-making.
I love that. And anybody that's listening and thinking about practical ways to implement this, I mean, I always encourage you to think small first, or create a pilot program, a smaller open, department or team where you can begin to implement some of these ideas in play and run a test, do an A/B test. This department has open collaborative decision-making and this one doesn't. This one has two-way conversations in a town hall kind of setup and this one doesn't. And look at the results from there. You can track that to business metrics, revenue, money coming in versus money being saved, right? Expenses on the operations side. And I think that that's the secret to implementing this. You can start literally with just your team and then going, oh, wow, something's different. In the last 30 days, it's noticeably different. And now we can ripple this out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if there are HR business partners or managers that are listening, what are maybe 3 quick moves that they can try this week to make sharing the load more normal? Whether it's using collaboration or psychological safety, and again, not guilt or heroics, as a way of managing and fear.
Yeah, I think one of the top ones is very basic at the beginning of meetings, check-ins. Very quick. How are you really? Check-ins. And this is deliberately developmental organizations, DDOs, they're called. The researchers at Harvard found of all of the DDO organizations that they found, the highest performing ones, this was the most consistent practice that people had, was training leaders and managers to just check in with people. And this is often, people are like, I don't have time. But that 5 to 10 minute, how are you doing? Is there anything that we need to know about right now? That, calms people's nervous systems, helps people just feel seen and accepted and part of a team rather than just like part of the machine that isn't cared about. Number 2, building on that, one-on-one meetings. This was something, fortunately, I was able to build this into the company that I had, but then I've seen it across the board at all of the other higher performer organizations. And you can do your own cadence. But for me, I scheduled a one-on-one meeting. I had 8 team members that I oversaw, and I scheduled a one-on-one meeting with them once a quarter. Probably could have done it once a month. I don't know. And you can create your own questions, but mine were very simple. And this was not a meeting for me to give people feedback. This was a listening session for me to understand how they are doing. I would ask, how are you doing in your role right now? Is there anything I need to know? Is there anything preventing you from doing your best work or consistently challenging you? And do you have any suggestions for me, the team, or the organization on just new ideas or things that you're seeing are opportunities for improvement? You can base it off those, go with whatever you want, but just listening to people, I was not defensive. I just sat there. I recorded it on a little recorder. I took copious notes. I asked them lots of questions. And I often ask, is there any feedback that you have for me as a leader? Like, how can I improve? And those one-on-one meetings, they help you it's all information is data. And especially when you're managing people, the more information you have about them as a person, the better you are able to manage them. And it also, people again feel seen. they feel heard. It's that sense of autonomy. It's that sense of connection and community. Just to know that the person managing you cares. And it's like you can take 30, 45 minutes a quarter per person to do this, and it makes an unbelievable difference. So that would be number two. And then number three, I think it's like, it's more of a personal practice, I would say. But I have it in the book, but this is one that keeps coming up for me and other people that are like, that one actually was great. I call it the impact energy matrix, which, yes, I completely made up, but is when you're saying yes to things, especially outside the workplace. I know that inside the workplace, a lot of people are like, I can't say no, or my job security is at risk. So like, I am not saying this is for setting boundaries inside the workplace, but outside of the workplace, the number of things that you say yes to, just taking a minute to pause and consider. So when I say impact energy, impact is how much meaning does this have to me or the other person? And energy is, does this fill my cup or does this completely deplete my cup? If something has the opposite of meaning, is you are doing it out of obligation, for fear of judgment, because you feel like you have to. If something is depleting your cup and is something obligatory or you're doing just because you're worried about disappointing someone else or judgment, those are like vampires. They suck your energy. They make it so you leave those events coming home being like, why did I do that? And but then you keep doing it over and over again. So it is saying no, gracefully saying no to invitations that are obligatory and suck your energy. And there's, of course, some balance within this. Like, I give an example. When my dad was going through chemotherapy over the last few years, yes, that was an energy suck. I didn't enjoy going down to his chemotherapy sessions, but that had so much meaning. It was tremendous impact for both him and I, for me to just be there with him. So that's a yes, I'll say yes to that. Or me going out to a concert at Red Rocks probably doesn't have the most impact or meaning in the world, but it fills my cup. It is one of those things that I come back and I feel happy and alive and joyful and like I'm actually living a beautiful quality of life. And so the impact energy matrix, just saying no to the energy time-sucking things that you are only doing out of obligation, even if it's just saying no to one thing per month, and being quiet and staying home and doing what you need to do to restore your energy. That's one of the things that individually we can do, but then when we're helping our managers and leaders understand that they need to optimize for their own well-being, a huge part of that is reducing the number of things they have on their plate outside of the workplace that they don't need to be doing.
Yeah. Bottom line, if you are a people leader or manager, you're their role model as well. So they are learning by watching you. So it does start with you. And I love, love, love these practical tips you've just shared, Megan. I feel like people are around the world feverishly writing down notes. And you guys, everything's in the show notes. So you can go over to thesimplifiers.com and click through to find all the resources there. Megan's book is called This Isn't Working: How Working Women Can Overcome Stress, Guilt, and Overload to Find True Success. You can find this book anywhere where books are sold, online, or even at your favorite local bookshop. And Megan, as we wrap, I mean, gosh, there's so much here, but I feel like you've really given us lots to inspire us and get us on the right path. Is there anything exciting happening in your world these days, the things that are on the horizon for you?
Oh, man. I get into all sorts of good trouble, and
you've got a Substack too, right? So you
I do.
write really on a Substack?
I do. I have a Substack called What's Working, since, the book is called This Isn't Working. I will be doing season 2 of a podcast called Better Than This coming shortly. I do a lot of women's employee resource group workshops, retreats, and yeah, I get to do all sorts of things, and that's part of my intention around following my curiosity and building the life that I really enjoy is I'm a dabbler. I get to play in lots of spaces.
Love it. Well, again, you guys can find all the links to connect with Meghan over at the show notes. So the simplifiers.com, I'll have a link to her website, how to get connected to her either on LinkedIn or Instagram, and also a link to that Substack. So you guys can check that out. So as we wrap, there are a few questions I like to ask everybody that comes on the podcast, and here they go, rapid fire. First question is this: what's one book you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
I mentioned it already, The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor and Daniel Mate. It just challenges everything that you think about in life around everything. So yes, that one.
Excellent. Yeah. We'll link that in the show notes, you guys. So if you are curious about that book, you can find it again over at thesimplifiers.com. So tell me, who is somebody in your network, somebody you know personally that you just feel is up to brilliant things? We shine a spotlight on them. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast. Who would that be?
Yes. Melanie Dolbecco. She is the CEO of Tarani Syrups that I mentioned. The way I think she has simplified the way to invest in people to drive business results and has set the stage and built the model for other people to follow. And she's one of the most inspiring people I've ever met.
It's incredible. Yeah, we will definitely link her up in the show notes for you guys. If you want to curious and check it out, again, thesimplifiers.com. I believe that simplicity and gratitude go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
Curiosity. I am a relentlessly curious person, and following what lights me up and what I'm curious about rather than what I feel like I should do or what feels practical has been a game changer for my career and my happiness and the work that I do. So feeling brave enough to follow the curiosity, I feel very grateful for that.
Love that. So, Meghan, my final question for you is this today. And again, thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom with us. Someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and she's a people leader. She is carrying what feels like the weight of the world on her shoulders. And yes, she does have high achievers that report to her, but she too is a high achiever, and she's starting to crack a little. What's one thing you could whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her in this moment?
I mean, encouraging is like, take a breath. It doesn't have to feel this heavy. The way that we are doing this, a lot of this is self-agency, and we have choice over how we define our success and what we do. But the thing that I found that's starting to really build my ability to contend and hold all of this was prioritizing my joy as much as anything else. And when the practice here is identify what you enjoy doing, what actually brings you true, heartfelt, tremendous joy. And that could be everything from surfing to having dinner with friends or traveling, whatever it is. But most women I know, when I ask them what brings them joy, besides like seeing my kids flourish or something around other people, most people can't answer that question. So the practice is identifying what brings you joy and schedule it.
Amen.
Put it on your calendar.
Yeah. Drop the mic. Do it now, guys. Thank you, Meghan. Appreciate you.
You as well. Thank you.